Okay, I do believe that we are live. So we'll just wait for a few people to get logged in and join this week's podcast. Okay, so anyone that joins in or links in, we're able to see and talk to you. Obviously, you can comment in the comments and we can see those, pick those up. And I will do my best to read the comments as we go through this week's podcast and to talk effectively. So where are we? So what is it? It's the 28th of, I think it's 28th. My eyes are getting worse. It's the 28th of July, 2025. Time seems to just fly by these days, really. And last night, so today is Monday, last night, Sunday night, we had a worldwide meditation with Chen. So I was basically channeling Chen in that kind of meditation. And I think there's about 94 people joined. So it was a really good turnout. It was a really good session. It was obviously a webinar, so people couldn't see themselves, but obviously everybody's on that webinar effectively. And we kind of went through, well, there were two meditations, I guess. There was the first meditation that consisted of kind of connecting to each person from a healing perspective. And then the second part of that evening meditation was also the worldwide cleansing and clearing part, really, where Chen and his team in spirit, the other energies and entities that he works with, were basically working on the planetary energy grid. And it was quite exciting, I guess, from that perspective. So I'm just going to say hi to Connie. Thanks for joining, Connie, and to Sarah. Sarah's always around, so we appreciate your loyalty, Sarah. We know you're always there in the background somewhere, which is always good. Nice to see the same people, different people obviously come and join us. There's different people that are finding us in the things that we talk about. And I think Chen sort of is starting to liken himself to Bashar to a certain degree, really. I think he quite likes the idea of having a big following and obviously pushing out a lot of the different messaging that they have to kind of communicate through us. And we all kind of realise that all of us that are mediums are connecting to spiritual energies, obviously our higher self too, effectively. But we're kind of here as a duty, I guess, on the planet at this kind of critical time to actually be the kind of voice of these spiritual energies that we work with, connect with, our guides, the teams in spirit, and the things that they want to do. So discernment, of course, is the key. So if we're working with energies and entities that we can't see with our physical eyes, then we need to know who they are from a spiritual perspective. And we know there's different ways that we as mediums can connect using telepathy and talk to guides, channel information. And again, I always think, really, if you look at the kind of information flow that comes through people, that gives you a good idea as to what type of entities and energies they're channeling, basically. There's lots of people that talk about the ability to channel, and we know that we can all do that. It's a kind of human trait, really. I think it's in our DNA. I think everyone can channel, and I believe that everyone is a medium, really, at heart, which means we all can use telepathy. It just takes a bit of time and practice to kind of bring those skills and gifts, I guess, online from a spiritual perspective. And obviously, we know that as a spiritual medium, meditation and doing meditation is one of the first ways to do that, really. So I'm just going to say hi to Jane downstairs. She's always watching, always listening from behind the scenes. And of course to Vanessa. Vanessa's been over this morning. She's brought with her a lot of resin, pyramids, and other things that she's created. And she makes a lot of our products for us, which is really cool. And makes them better than me, actually, funnily, which is interesting. So I started off making a lot of the resin products that we use and sell, and got to the point I couldn't keep up with demand and I couldn't keep up with the many things to do. So Vanessa's kindly helping us to do that. And now hers is better than mine, which is good. Well, it's good because obviously the product is good, but effectively it's quite funny that you start these things yourself and then you kind of show someone else and they end up being better than you. In fact, the same thing happened with the website, actually. I used to do the website myself, and then Ollie took it over, and now Ollie does a better job than I do, generally. In fact, I don't even know what's going on now half the time with the website and the configuration and the architecture and all those sorts of things. So I guess this is all part of our spiritual growth, is that we need to learn when we kind of take our hands off, really, and sort of hand things to other people. And I think it's probably a lesson for us all to a certain degree. I know for me, I always like to maintain and do things myself, but you get to a point that you realise that you can't do everything and you can't be everywhere. And I think we all kind of get to that understanding at some point in our lives. And that's when we need to start to trust other people, get other people to do things with us and for us. And of course, effectively, that is a spiritual path that is there for all of us anyway, really. So I'm just going to say hi to Nadine. Good to have you. Karen, Michelle, and Jupiter's Law. So good to have you folks on. Okay, so last night's meditation. So 94 people, fantastic, great numbers. Chen's got big plans on thousands. Jane and I thought we were doing really well because obviously Chen wanted to do that meditation. He wanted to make it free of charge so there was no financial constraints for anyone around being able to kind of join us and do that whole 2 meditations, really, the clearing one and the healing first part too. So that was good. So I think we had over 200 people registered for that. And then actually 94 turned up in live. And then, of course, a lot of people will do that in catch-up mode. So the meditation and the event from last night, if you couldn't make it or couldn't do it for whatever reason, family constraints, time zones, all the things that we know play a big part there. That meditation is now on our YouTube channel, the whole thing. So you can literally replay the event and do both the meditations yourself. It's also on our streaming services, so Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Deezer. So also you can pick it up from there and obviously listen to it as well. And of course, do the meditations. There's 2 really good meditations that Chen hosted and ran. The first one was for your healing and cleansing and clearing yourself, really energetically. And then the second part of the evening was around cleansing and clearing the planet's energy grid. And I didn't really know what we were going to do when we did that. Chen just said that's what we were doing. I kind of leave it to him to work out the rudimentary parts of it. But what we were actually doing was connecting to the ley lines and the actual energetic grid of the planet and basically clearing negativity from those ley lines. So it was quite a special meditation. It was quite a special evening, I think, really. And obviously we had people from all over the planet worldwide. So we had people in the UK, the US, Australia. I think we had Iran, which was new to us, or I haven't noticed that before. We had Greece, Slovenia, lots of European countries, Iceland, Norway. So again, if you actually look at the pins in the map, effectively the whole kind of planet was kind of covered by people, really, which is exactly what Chen wanted, is that people would be geographically located around the planet, and then they would use or work through that person's energy to kind of obviously physically sat in a certain place to connect to the grid in the place that the people were living, effectively residing. And then, of course, they would use their energy to work through, clear, and produce change. So really just going over kind of what we did. So the idea was it was a free meditation, really, to kind of change the frequency, and a global meditation sort of guided by myself and obviously run by Chen. So effectively, meditation began with a kind of sense of, I guess, collective stillness, really. From that perspective, as everyone kind of just mellowed and chilled, we sort of connected to everyone's heart chakra, nervous system, a kind of soft opening, really. Obviously made sure that everyone was protected, and we know that protection is our big thing. Our whole kind of business is built around spiritual protection, really. So that's what we were doing. We were working on a concept that everybody would be in a protected space from a kind of spiritual perspective before they were opened up. And then we asked their spirit guides to come in close and move into their field. And for some people, that's probably, or could well be, like a new experience. And when your guide comes into your field, sometimes you kind of feel quite warm. Some people get goosebumps, those sorts of things. So I'll be interested to kind of see some of the feedback, I guess, that people will kind of send in as the days go by as to how they felt when their guides came in. So I'm just going to say hi to Matsumi, Chris, Jen, and Diana, which is good. Good to have you guys here. The same names as last night, I think, generally. So you guys probably know what we're talking about, because obviously we're going over the reflections, really, from last night, and then we'll get Chen in to talk about what's changed or how things did change whilst we were kind of working to clear the grid, which effectively is what we were kind of doing, really. So I think Chen's energy always comes through in his kind of loving, clear way, very, very powerful, but quite considered. And one of the things I'd asked him to do was to try and slow down the conversation, because we are aware not everyone is English speaking as a native first language, and there are people that would have been on that meditation that were trying to listen in their language or do the conversion. So one of my asks to Chen was just slow things down. Let's not rush. Let's just do it in a nice, calm manner. So if you guys were on the call last night and you noticed that Chen was actually slowing down, it'd be good to get your feedback. Again, if you were on that call last night and you're in the this podcast now, great to put some feedback in. We'll be really keen to hear what you felt, what you didn't feel, what you thought overall, and obviously how you've been affected in any way, really. So again, any feedback is always good from our perspective. Okay, so I think Chen sort of explained to me a while back that when aligning participants, I guess, into their own, or connecting them with their higher self, but also sort of connecting them to this kind of greater spiritual intelligence that we know is around, spirit guides that we all have and connect to. So the meditation wasn't just about peace, really, moments of peace. It was also about purpose, and that was the whole point. So we had quite a few people tell us it was quite an emotional experience for them. They felt things emotionally. Some people felt waves of warmth, tingling. Others reported kind of seeing imagery, colours, that type of thing. And as part of the healing meditation, what we did was kind of go back into a past life. So lots of people have anchors, trauma, pain, things that they experienced in past lives that have carried forward this life. And sometimes they can really hold you back emotionally, mentally. And of course, people have sort of unknown fears. And obviously we talk about spiders all the time because we know lots of people seem to have this aversion to spiders without a real reason to have that. So again, is that a past life trauma? Have you been somewhere around spiders and therefore you have this kind of big fear of spiders? Maybe you've been on a planet, a different planet that has arachnoids as big spiders, and maybe we've been at war with spiders or arachnoids on different planets, and that's left this kind of tangible fear in our core sort of subconscious somewhere. Because it does seem quite odd, really, that so many people are frightened of something that is... I know a couple of people in our family that literally leap off the sofa if they see a spider walk across the floor, and the spider's normally pretty small, size of your thumbnail. So it's not like you've got a huge dog that's wandered out of the corner of the room that could frighten you. It's a tiny spider wandering across the floor. So we shouldn't be frightened of them. And if we are frightened of those sorts of things, there's got to be a connection somewhere to a lifetime where that was problematic. And I guess that would be interesting to explore, really. In fact, whilst I'm saying that, maybe we'll do that in the next meditation, try and see if we can connect to lifetimes where we've been frightened of these things and see what comes up, because I think that would be really interesting to do as a collective, as a big group of people. We all go into past life. We go to past life that shows us why we're frightened of things in this life that we have coming forward. And of course, different people are frightened of different things. And we know in the past, we talk about witches and people that were drowned, submerged in water, and then they incarnate into this life, don't like the head being put underwater, generally. We kind of could understand why that would be. If you were drowned in a past life, then in this life, there could be the aversion to water, kind of energy is carried forward. So I think there's a lot of things that are quite interesting to cover, really, and things that we can talk about, which will be good. So... okay, so from my perspective, I think we covered like the emotional aspects that people felt. Some people said they were in tears. They could feel like a release. Some people were laughing. For a lot of people, I think there was silence, probably. And probably for some people, they probably couldn't follow the meditations. You do need to have somewhere quiet. I know we spoke to Vanessa this morning, and she said when it started, the dog was barking and things were going on in the house. So she sort of lost focus. So you do kind of need to find that bit of quiet time, really. And that was one of the reasons that we always record these things and we can upload them onto our platform so that you guys can do them when it suits you. When you can get an hour somewhere, even if it's in your car somewhere, you can sit back, put the seat back, do a meditation and just chill. Then I think it is quite good from that perspective, really. Okay, James saying I'm breaking up, which is interesting. So I was hoping... let me just see if I can change anything on my end to work on that. Okay, so if I just change my camera resolution to 720, that might help, possibly. Okay, so we've got a few people talking about Jupiter's law. I felt freer after. Diana, that's good to hear, Diana. Anything that makes you feel better, that's got to be good, really. So we're happy with that takeaway. Always nice. It was a great time to release trauma from Jupiter's law, especially when the world is already in a traumatic state. I think this was the whole point, and this was the reason that Chen wanted to do this meditation now, really, is because we know there's a lot of suffering, lots of trauma going on in different parts of the planet, and we need to sort of try and harness the energy and bring back the light effectively. And that, I think, is what we were doing when we were doing lots of the group work on the planet's grid, was to basically try and clear a lot of the blockages, a lot of the negativity and the trauma, of course, that's been locked into different places. Because I think we can probably all imagine if people are losing their life in wars in different places, and then those grid points are going to become quite negatively charged because of negative energy, fear, pain, trauma, that type of thing. And of course, those grid points will be blocked energetically too. So effectively, energy is not going to flow around the planet in a kind of free and easy way on those kind of residual points, really, that have these blockages and stagnant negative energy. So I think that's part of the key, is to certainly send light with people located in those parts of the planet around and just free things up. So again, we'll get Chen in a moment to give us his version, but that certainly was my understanding, is that that's what we're here to do, is to basically free up and clear a lot of this negative residual energy. Okay, so Naval's here as well, which is good. Good to see you. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Okay, that sounds better. So please provide the YouTube channel name. So the YouTube channel name is Andrew Surgeon. So basically I go by sort of Andrew Surgeon, sort of Andrew Psychic Surgeon, effectively, was the kind of idea behind it. This was like 15, 20 years ago. Well, I kind of should have done probably was stuck to Andy Porter, but at the time I was having quite a lot of problems from a work perspective. So keeping the spiritual work away from my normal job was kind of part of my thing, really. The two things don't tend to align particularly well when you work for corporations and you're channeling spirit guides. So those things tend to be kept apart. So Andrew Surgeon is where I tend to go. So if you look on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, you'll see there's an Andrew Surgeon channel. Again, YouTube, Andrew Surgeon. The Facebook page is Andrew Surgeon. So if you pop those things in, hopefully you can find the YouTube channel. And again, every time we do a video, everything that we do all gets uploaded to those places. So our YouTube channel has got all of the videos, interviews, all things that we do. Everything should be there. Just going to say hi to Lisa, Mimi, and Diane. Good to see you folks. Okay, so some meditations. So I guess what we need to do is get Chen in to come and have a chat and give us his kind of version of what happened yesterday, really, and what the kind of intention was from a spiritual perspective. So the feedback we had was we did like a kind of raptor meditation, which I thought was quite cool. So people basically changed in meditation, dropped their physical form, changed into kind of raptors, birds of prey, eagles, those sorts of things. And then we all kind of descended on an island together. So kind of people coming in this other form, change of consciousness. And then effectively we were kind of working together to use everyone's collective energy to kind of clear the grid and the ley lines, which was interesting. So I think we need to ask Chen what he observed, what was released, what was anchored, what was changed, what's kind of coming next, and just get his sort of reflections on what we did and how we did things. And obviously, if you guys have just joined, if you can give us an update as to how you felt or observed what you observed really as part of these two meditations, that would be quite cool. Karen's saying that she felt light and floaty. Always good. Light and floaty means clear energy, so that's quite good. Did have a neighbour playing really loud music. And this is the thing, Karen, I think really, it's, trying to meditate, you do kind of need a bit of peace and quiet. But on the other side of the coin, I think it's good practice to learn to block out, negative, anything negative. One of the things I used to do when I used to practice talking to Chen, I was driving to and from work every day, and it was a good hour's drive each way. So I would kind of do my cleansing, clearing, grounding, and then I'd put a thought out to connect to Chen in the morning. I start talking to him, just general stuff. And I continued to turn the volume up of the music in the car until I'd kind of lost the connection. So eventually my brain kind of would just go off thinking about or talking to Chen, I'd kind of just tune into the music, I'd lose the connection. And I did that for about a year, I guess. Every day I was just basically learning to turn the music up louder and louder to try and maintain the connection. And most of the time I'd arrive at work and think, oh, I sort of lost Chen halfway again on my journey. And I used to kind of laugh to myself. But it was quite a good way to sort of learn to train your mind to block out things you don't want to hear. So even though you can hear them, you can hear music, you can hear people in the house, you can hear dogs barking, you can hear ambulances or cars or police cars. So the conscious part of you is listening to those things, but we're trying to train the subconscious part of you to lock in to a different frequency into that meditation zone and connect to the guides and hold the connection. So I guess it's spiritual training, really, from that perspective. And it's certainly something that you can do with practice, like everything, really. So I think trying to find complete and utter peace and quiet is probably impossible, really, for most people, unless you live in the middle of the country and there's nothing there. But even then, there will be farmers that will be farming, or there'll be some sort of noise. So I think we kind of get to the point that we know we all live around noise. And when we meditate, we've got to learn to block the noise out and just go inside and connect to that kind of subconscious part of us that is the real spiritual part. And this is the part that we're active with. This is the part that we're connecting to. And this is where we kind of find our guides and connect to them. So that's kind of my version. So I don't really see it as a bad thing, but there's lots of loud noise and distractive things. See it that it's part of your kind of progress. It's part of your spiritual development to learn to block out those things we don't want to listen to, and then try and tune in to the bits we do, basically. Okay, Nadine saying it's a powerful meditation, very high with incredible feelings of elation, and that's quite good. It's good to hear you're feeling good as well today, Nadine. Thank you for that. I thought the past life section was conducted too fast for me. Well, this is the thing, really, and this is why we need the feedback, because obviously different people are kind of going to go at different speeds. And sometimes when we do these meditations, for some people they're sat waiting, other people are still trying to get down to the right places, and then we're coming back, and you haven't kind of been left with long enough. But the key thing, Nadine, is you can obviously revisit that. You can go and do that meditation again, and this time spend a bit longer in the past life part and connect to people from a past life and maybe sort of hold some conversations from that perspective. So again, it's kind of the more we do these things, the better we get, and the more we kind of learn to do them. So the worldwide meditation activating line was incredible, pulsating vibration. Oh, okay, yeah, that's good. I'm anxious to hear about its effect. I think we all are, actually. Okay, Mimi says you can do that in a car, which is quite cool. Past life as an older man. So Earth Alchemy, I observed a past life as an older man that was stoned to death. That sounds lovely. Had a short-lived pain and right side of my neck. Okay, so that's the part that I guess you were kind of passing with effectively then. Also, during the second meditation, I was about 15 seconds ahead, which is always good. It's always good because what you're doing, I guess, when we're ahead of someone that's taking us through a meditation, obviously the thoughts are kind of coming into my mind and Chen's speaking them out loud. And there's obviously a time gap. So what you're probably doing is connecting to the frequency, and you're already listening to, from a telepathic perspective, to what's coming. So you know what's going to come because, as you say, you're sort of 15, 20 seconds ahead of that, which is quite cool. And I always think that's quite a good place from a spiritual development perspective, really, when you kind of are linking into someone's thoughts, and before they say what they're going to say, you've already got the answer in your mind. And I think that's a good way to proceed, really. Okay, so you're flying over the Eiffel Tower, which is pretty cool and free because there's no travel costs required to do that in meditation as opposed to doing it physically. Okay, Miriam said she felt connected to the group, which is good. When we landed on the island, yeah, it was a bit like a party. That's quite a good point, I think, actually. Okay. Kate saying meditation was amazing. Surprised with how I saw myself the last life regression part of the meditation. I saw myself as a male that had been captured, tied down, and killed by villagers out of fear. Another lovely ending, Kate, really. I decided to pull my spirit out of the body and tell myself it's okay now. I then felt a beautiful light energy coming into me and tears coming out of my eyes. Oh, so you had a tearful experience, which is interesting. Okay, good. And I think this is the thing. I think when we do some of these past life meditations, we do and can clear a lot of negative residual energy that we're kind of holding in our field, but we don't even know it's there. And this is the key thing, really. Okay, I thought the eagle transport transformation was a great way to leave the body and have a break from the past life imagery. Yeah, this is the thing. Trying to do different things makes it interesting, really. It's one of the things I used to find when I used to go to groups. It's quite often people we do the same thing every week, so you'll kind of know what's coming, and that kind of gets boring. So I think it's important that we change things and make things more interesting and do different things, because it keeps the interest level. It makes things interesting for people, and we all do this basically because it's not really a hobby, I guess. It's a life path. We do need to have fun when we do them, and I think it's important to remember that we are here having fun. And we should be able to have fun whilst we know we're working spiritually, and we've all got our jobs to do, and we're all kind of holding space and energy and frequency in the places that we are. There's no reason we can't do it in a positive way and find it good, have a bit of a chuckle and a laugh, and do those sorts of things too. Okay, so let's get Chen in for his chat. I'm just going to set mine in a second. Okay, so I'll disappear. We'll hand over to Chen and see what he has to say. Good day to you all. It's my pleasure to be able to converse again so soon, of course, after yesterday's worldwide group meditation. So firstly, it was immensely positive, really, from our perspective. The first thing, of course, that was immensely positive from my perspective was to see so many people on a call at the same time. When we wanted to do these things, as many of you have said during the comments on this particular comment thread as part of this live stream, is that obviously there's lots going on from a planetary perspective, and there's a lot of negativity, there's a lot of stale energy, there's a lot of trauma, there's a lot of pain, a lot of people leaving the planet in different ways for different reasons that, of course, we don't really need to go into, because most of you realize what I'm saying and what we're alluding to. So there is a lot of departures happening at the moment. And of course, when these things happen, there is this residual negative layer. And of course, when there are wars in certain parts of the planet, again, there's a lot of people in pain, lots of people traumatized, lots of people leaving, moving back to their spiritual home. So it's essential, really, from a grid perspective, that we continue to maintain the flow of energy around the planet. So like everything, we know that the energy flows around ley lines primarily, and ley lines being effectively acupuncture points in the planet's ecosystem and kind of etheric spiritual grid. So we think of eco points or needle points in the planet as the acupuncture points and the meridians of the physical human body, with the same type of concept. Energy has to flow through them. When meridians and some of these core points in the ley system become blocked, then of course energy stops, energy becomes trapped. And when energy stops and becomes trapped, there is a lot less harmony. And when that happens, the people living in those places feel the blockages. They feel tangible emotional change. So if you're living in a place of the planet that the energy system is blocked for whatever reason, whether it's been orchestrated that way or it's just happened that way, you will feel frustrated, you will feel ungrounded, people will feel emotionally distilled or traumatized or fearful. So a lot of the negative feelings people will pick up on if they live in these places. And of course, this can then move quite quickly and adapt from a situational perspective into disharmony in those areas. And of course, we know that that generally means that people then move into a state of frustration, a state of anger, and a state of negative agreements. Or we could move into states of war and, of course, aggression. So trying to keep the energy grid of the system running properly is the key component to a harmonic planet that's actually vibrating with the right frequencies and of course the people and the populace, and of course the animals. Remember, the fauna, the fish, everything that lives in the ecosystem of the planet is aligned with frequency, and everything is obligated to try to hold frequency to a certain degree. Even animals are obviously doing the same things. So what we see from a spiritual group of entities is we look down effectively in the way that you would observe things into the planet's frequency, and we can see areas that are negative. We can see blockages. If you think of an apple or a piece of fruit that's gone bad in certain points, if you cut it open, you can see parts of the apple or parts of the fruit would be fine. They would be ripe. They would be perfect from a perspective to be able to consume and eat. Other parts may have gone bad. So there could be mold, there could be things living inside there. And of course, those parts you wouldn't eat. So if you visualize the concept of a round ecosystem, everything needs to be in its place. So when we look at planet Earth, what we were observing is some of these negative places, especially the places that are currently at war, were holding very, very negative vibrations. And this is starting to affect the whole planet. Because, of course, if energy cannot flow around these ley lines and grid points correctly, it blocks. In the same way that a river is blocked when you build a dam, you stop the flow. So you have this huge flow of water, and then if you have a dam, it's contained by the dam, and then you decide how much you're going to allow through. And of course, then you can form small tributaries from what would be fast-flowing rivers. So you end up with tiny creeks when you should have a fast-flowing river. And of course, that affects everything that lives in the rivers, in the creeks, and downstream from the dam. So we're trying to unblock these areas. And to do that, of course, we need your energy. We can do so much ourselves. From a spiritual perspective, we can change frequency. We can obviously do, and we do change things every day. Things are being done, things are being worked upon. But obviously, there's nothing quite like having a human person with boots on the ground in a geographical location where we can actually channel energy down through your physicality into the planet from a physical perspective, and then push that energy down into the grid points and move it through the ley lines. So what we wanted to do yesterday with so many of you connected is firstly to obviously perform a general healing and cleansing meditation, which we did. And many of you felt the difference, and will certainly have felt the difference today in the cold light of day, as they say, when you wake up and you realize that you feel freer, you feel safer. Some of the negative thoughts have disappeared. Some of you may even start to feel happy because you've released negativity and we've cleared blockages, cleared and blocked negative energy. So once we've been through the clearing of yourselves and the protecting of yourselves from a spiritual perspective, the second part of that meditation was to thump the grid. This is the term that we use, certainly myself and the team, is that we're going to thump the grid hard. So if you can imagine, energy is flowing around the grid continually, and that energy is flowing in a normal way, constrained in places, but without too much disturbance. What we wanted to do was obviously to connect to you all, which is why in meditation we took you all to the same place from a conscious perspective, to the island, and we saw each of you coming in as raptors without physical form as humans, landing in that space. And what that was doing, that was connecting your energetic frequency together. So when you were visualizing yourselves as conscious beings landing on an island in the middle of the sea, every time one of you came in to that space, you were connecting to each other. And we, of course, as a team, were there connecting to you too. So we're basically harnessing your energy. And what we did then was effectively we pushed that light down into the center of the core of the planet. So we held the energy back for quite some time, not in your timeline, of course, but then we basically thumped the grid. So we released this huge amount of positive light, effectively, harnessed from each of you. And that light flowed straight down into the center, into the core part of Mother Earth, picking up the core grid and then moving outwards at the same time. So almost if you visualize something like a nuclear explosion, that you would see from a physical perspective. You basically detonate and split an atom, and at that time that splits, then this cloud, this mushroom cloud comes up, but effectively that moves outwards. And you've all seen the imagery of what happens when you split an atom to create a nuclear detonation. So we did the same, we thumped the grid in the same way. So everything on planet Earth basically would have felt a very quick vibratory change, a big level of energy flowing through to release and to clear. And obviously we look at things from a vibratory frequency. We know we speak about this all the time. Everything is frequency of vibration. So we monitored the frequency before we thumped the grid, and then we monitor the frequency after. And the whole vibration of planet Earth has moved up significantly just from that one meditation with a very, very small number of people. Now you can imagine if we could get thousands of people on a call at the same time, and we can put them all in one space from a conscious perspective, and we can connect everyone's field together, then effectively we can create a huge amount of what would be seen as lightning across the astral plane. And what you did yesterday, bear in mind, was seen on the astral. Every entity that's connected with the planet that you don't see in the physical, but they exist around you, they're in your space, they're in different frequencies. Every single one would have seen what happened yesterday, that grid was thumped with light, and that light would have cleared dams, it would have knocked things down, it would have pushed away negativity. The negative control system would definitely have felt the thump as it happened. And this is the reason that I tend not to say too much to Andrew, because I don't want him to know what we plan to do. Because, of course, as soon as we've had a conversation, there's a thought. And that thought is then on the astral, that thought's in the space. It gives the negative side the opportunity to do things that they need to try to counteract what we're trying to do. And this is why we keep things close to our chest, I guess you could say, for quite some time, until we're ready to actually do something. Because then there is no time for the opposition to make themselves ready. And that grid thump that we did yesterday has had ramifications across many, many areas of this whole planetary ecosystem, because you know that planet Earth isn't just a physical planet, it has different vibratory frequencies and harmonics, and in those different frequencies and harmonics there are different species, other entities live and exist inside. So you may see or visualize the concept that you live in or on this ball, basically this physical ball, but it's not really the case at all. There are many, many other frequencies where other entities and other species live, and they all rely and exist around your planetary frequency. So what happens in your 3D frequency, the physical frequency, has ramifications outwards to other species, to other energies and entities. And of course, this is why so many of us, when I say us, I mean my colleagues, my spiritual colleagues, are watching and working with people like yourselves relating to planet Earth, because if you were to destroy your planet physically, you then destroy other species and a lot of other things as well. So it's not just you as human beings that are affected by the things that you do from a physical perspective. Your effects have huge ramifications in lots of places that you probably would never understand. And this is why you're watched continually, like children in a playground. You set them free, they're inside a fence. The teachers stand there and have a cup of coffee and they talk to each other, but they're watching the children. The children are allowed to do what they want to a certain degree, but if they start to fight or they start to become negative or aggressive, then of course the teachers intervene, and we have a role to do the same. Our role is to watch what's happening on planet Earth, and we intervene when we need to. And this is why when we talk about global cataclysms and huge big wars that involve nuclear destinations across the planet, that will never happen, because that won't be allowed to happen from our perspective. And there are many entities that are able to intervene. Obviously, localized war is one thing, but a global war would obviously be very detrimental and quite catastrophic, actually, to so many other species of energy that most of you are not aware of, and most of you have never involved yourself with. And I know that I say from time to time, one day you will see what you might call other species walking down the road. And of course, we're getting much closer to that happening. And certainly there are mediums that do see this today. Many mediums talk about the integration of extraterrestrial species into what you might call the normal populace of human life. And of course, there are people, the people at the front, if you like, the leading people that are already aware of species, energies, and entities, are able to converse, convene, and to work with them in a positive way. So there are many people on planet Earth that are talking about this, that are leading the way with this integration. But for most of the population, of course, obviously it wouldn't be a very appetized concept or conversation until things start to slowly leak into human consciousness. And this, of course, is what's happening with your media, your films, your movies. There's so many movies and films and media now about other species in good ways and bad ways, but the general idea is to allow the conscious awareness of human beings on planet Earth to understand they don't exist on their own. There have been contracts and agreements made with other entities and energies, and of course this all plays into what we're doing from a group meditative perspective. You may see what you do or what we did yesterday as just a meditation, but the effects are far, far bigger and greater than that. And of course, it goes on your card, friends. So when you're involved in these things, you pick up a medal, effectively. You know that if you go to war and you do something that's considered to be positive by your country, you get a medal. And depends upon how you look at things. Obviously, the medal would be a reward to a certain degree. But when you take part in some of these collective meditations, like yesterday, where we're thumping the grid with light and we're using your energy and your frequency is imbued into the collective group that we use to do the clearing. And therefore, it's part of you. Your energy becomes part of the grid. It's part of the light network, and it's obviously part of the vibration. So from a spiritual perspective, when you take your last breath, moves back to spirit, to my space, my time, my timeline, of course, then you will actually see the effects that you had. There will be many entities waiting to cheer you on, lead you forward, and you will be saluted, of course, too, for the work that you've done, because this work does not go unnoticed. If you do a normal job in your physical life, maybe your boss notices, maybe they don't. But when you're working energetically from a spiritual perspective with light and the work that we do together as a collective, your frequency and energy is imbued into the things that you change and do. It becomes part of who you are, and it becomes part of the change. So your name is written, basically, effectively, into the grid. And this, of course, is a huge honor, really, for yourself to be able to do these things. So this is what I would like to conclude the conversation with, is that we did thump the grid. We have changed the frequency. We've made a lot of positive change. And of course, sometimes when this happens, there's a slight backlash, because of course, when we open up ley lines and we clear negativity, energy starts to flow. If there's been a back and build up, there's going to be a big forward wash. So just watch the news over the next 2 or 3 days in certain places in the world, and just notice if anything seems slightly odd, or you notice that there is a backlash about something, and that could well be to do with the work that we've done collectively together. And of course, you all intuitively know anyway. If you read something, you will think, oh, goodness me, that's something that we did. That's because of what we did, and I was part of that. So I would like to take the time to say thank you to you all for the work that you've done and the work you're here to do, because of course it never stops. As you know, young Andrew and Jane joke about this every day, is that there's always something to do. And of course there is, because you're only here for a very short, finite time in your human physical life, and there is much to do. And of course you are held up in honor for the amount of work you do, the energy you give, and of course the positive change that is created by yourself, your family, the people you work with, and the collective groups that you're connecting into. So keep doing the work, keep shining the light, remember that we see you on the astral. We see your vibration. We know who you are, and you're saluted, really, from our perspective. So with that, I will conclude and say good day to you all and hand you back to young Andrew. And obviously, we will look forward to the next worldwide group meditation. Good day. Okay. So I think I'm back. So let's go through some of the comments whilst I've disappeared. I've been off somewhere different to most of you, probably. So what's Miriam got to say? Miriam's talking about it. I was the ley line like veins running through Mother Earth. Well, that's quite cool. A nice way to see it. Sarah, I was cleared from whatever was blocking me, talking to my guides. Oh, that's good. That's good, Sarah. So if you can talk to your guides, fantastic. That's kind of what we need to do. Jane using the term thump definitely shook things up. I'm not exactly sure what we're talking about there, but I'll probably come to that. Nadine's asking, when can we do this again? I'm still recovering from last night, Nadine. Jane and I woke up this morning, we were both quite tired, really, because, of course, there's quite a lot of organisation and prep that goes into these things. Obviously, lots of emails coming in and spreadsheets being updated and emails going out and then Zoom stuff to do. And so, from my point, there's quite a lot of work to kind of put into to make sure these events go in the right way. I am quite fortunate, really, that I can just turn up, talk to Chen, and kind of just run things in that way. So Jane probably spends more hours than me doing a lot of this stuff, which, again, it's always the way, isn't it? The people in the background really don't kind of get seen. And obviously Ollie's around too, and Vanessa are both doing things. So sometimes it's the people in the background, the team that facilitate the actual events to happen. The person that you see on the screen has generally done the least. So it's kind of that way with us, really. I just get told to, like, about an hour ago, I got told to go upstairs. Got 5 minutes. What are we talking about? So I don't know. Jane said, well, I'll put a post out to say that Chen's going to give an update. Okay, yeah, fine. So that was my prep done. It's just a case of then effectively allowing Chen in and just making sure that we keep the channel clear, really. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed that chat. It was certainly interesting. Again, we will be doing another one, Nadine, to answer your question. Chen will obviously have a plan for that at some point. And I think, again, he probably plans it around the things that are going on, I guess, from like a planetary perspective. When we need to do one, and we'll do. So again, that was the reflection, really, from Chen's perspective and his spiritual team. So energetically, they obviously saw what we did as a group, and it's quite, I think it's very positive, really, from their perspective. And obviously it's seen out on the astral, as we know. He's talked about that. So it's good. And obviously it's quite nice. Again, we feel quite humbled to be part of your journey, really, on this spiritual path. We're all here together, trying to do things in the right way and trying to hold the light, as they say, and keep the vibration and hold the frequency. And I think it's one of the things that I always remember Chen said on a Chen chat we did quite some time ago. And this lady was asking basically what could she do and what, how could she kind of contribute more. And she had quite a lot of problems in her life and things. And Chen said, just by waking up in the morning and effectively staying alive for the day and then going to sleep at night, that is your contribution, because you're holding the energy, you're holding the frequency, you're holding the vibration. And if you can do that, if you can just wake up, do your day, see your day out, go back to sleep. If you can do that and then kind of try and align your emotional state and your thoughts to be positive, and think positively and just hold that higher vibration, that probably is a lot more positive and useful from a spiritual perspective than any of us probably realise, myself included, really. Because that certainly was Chen's feedback. It's just, if you can just wake up and stay on the planet and hold a higher vibration, then you are doing your job, really. All of the other things that happen in your life is a bit like a theatre show to a certain degree, which we can kind of try and step out of as much as we can. But effectively, that is the kind of feedback that we just need to kind of hold the energy. Okay, so Karen said, thanks, Jane, for helping get in the last minute. That's okay, Karen. I'm sure Jane had quite a few people. I think there were a few people actually that tried to come in after we started, but unfortunately by then we weren't in a position to, because we locked the webinar at that point. So we're not in a position to kind of add more people and send emails and those sorts of things out because we're sort of underway. So next time, guys, if you see the emails and you want to be part of it, It's always good to register up front. I think we kind of put this out about a month before we were going to do it. So it was 4 weeks really to kind of get registered, get yourself the Zoom links and sort yourself out. So hopefully that kind of is enough time to do those things. Sarah's joined, so say hi Sarah, good to see you here. Jane, are the castle retreat classes in emails? I'm not quite sure what that means really. So the castle retreat, so we might be talking about the SRA courses. So they're all on the SRA website. So if you go to spiritreleaseacademy.com, all of the SRA stuff that is connected to the castle, as we call it really, because it is a castle, is a very cool place to work. And John and I are quite fortunate to kind of be part of that whole thing really. So we do like that. And that's where I'll be in the morning. So I'll be at the castle, starting to go through the planning for the next courses that we've got aligned, which will be cool. Okay, folks, I'm going to say good day, and hopefully you've enjoyed the chat, and hopefully Chen's explained what we did, why we did things, and the effect it's had. So take care, and we'll catch you next week. Thanks, folks. Bye-bye.